Hello everyone, my name is Lee Kenway, and I have a question for you. Don't you find it odd that the Pokemon games seem to be moving away from the outright evil antagonists of yesterday? In Pokemon Sun and Moon, Lucamine was straight up evil. Then she was turned into a misunderstood tragic figure in the Ultra games. Then in Sword and Shield, we met Chairman Rose, a figure who was drawn to do evil things for reasons he genuinely believed were just. And now in Scarlet and Violet, we didn't really get any villains. The worst thing Penny did was steal some league points from the Paldea Pokemon League, and Gita offered her a job after that, so clearly that wasn't too detrimental. Then in the DLC, the closest thing we got to a villain was Kieran and Pecharunt, but even they aren't truly evil, so what gives? What if I told you that not only do we have an evil villain in Scarlet and Violet, but she's been right up under our noses this entire time? Today, I'm going to prove to you that Miss Ryfort has been pulling our strings in order to wreak havoc on Paldea this entire time. If you talk to Ryfort in the staff lounge before going to history class, she will comment on the fact that you, the player, are even talking to her, and tell you that you must be absolutely mad to talk to her. While there are many ways to interpret this, the correct context will become clear soon enough. During your history class, Ryfort will teach you about the Treasures of Ruin, 4 Pokemon who represent 4 different curses: Grudge, Hatred, Fear, and Envy. These cursed Pokemon were brought to the King of Paldea as gifts. Sometime later, they awakened as disasters began to rampage all across the Paldean region. The King then called for renowned Pokemon wielders to defeat these Pokemon. After the battle, the Treasures of Ruin were sealed away in 4 separate shrines, spread out all across the region. If you talk to Ryfort sometime later, outside of class, she'll inform you that she knows this story is true and that the sacred stakes that keep these Pokemon sealed away can only be removed by someone pure of heart. She also notes that someone must have a bond with Pokemon in order to remove the stakes. After all of this, she then asks if you think it would be nice to free the Treasures of Ruin from the, quote, confines of their tiny little shrines. After you agree to do just that, Ryfort calls you a kind soul and says you are proving truly useful. So, Ryfort wants you to go release these 4 Pokemon that she knows not only can destroy Paldea, but nearly did destroy Paldea centuries ago. Now, you may be thinking that she only wants to free them because she genuinely thinks they'll be happier, or that you being pure of heart can command them not to do evil. However, right after you catch them, she pressures you to turn them over to her. When you speak to Ryfort in the entrance hall, she asks how the Treasures of Ruin are doing and tells you that she'll gladly take them off your hands if they become too much for you to handle. Speak to her in the staff room and she'll say the exact same thing again. And remember, she knows that she's not pure of heart. She said as much earlier. Now, one could argue that it's just reused dialogue. However, if you speak to her again in Blueberry Academy, she has a different bit of dialogue that shares the exact same sentiment. Speaking to Ryfort in Blueberry Academy will prompt her to ask you if you are keeping the Treasures of Ruin under control, and remind you that she is available if you feel the need to pass them on to someone else. We know that at least a few months have passed between the events of Scarlet and Violet and the events of the Indigo Disc DLC. Ryfort was expecting the Treasures of Ruin to have already broken free from your control and began their rampage around Paldea. When she learns that they haven't broken free, she offers to take them from you yet again. Once you befriend Ryfort, the gift she gives you is TM-140, which is Nasty Plot. When she hands this to you, she says, quote, yes, this one may indeed be of good use to me someday. Looking at the description for Nasty Plot, it states that this TM allows a Pokemon to, quote, stimulate its brain by thinking bad thoughts. One could argue that TM-140 could be used to turn a Pokemon evil. One thing that Game Freak absolutely loves to do is to use an NPC's team to drop hints about their characters. Take a look at Ryfort's team. Every one of Ryfort's Pokemon has some passing reference to manipulation and deceit. Zoroark's ability allows it to deceive its opponent. Malamar's hypnotic powers allow it to control other Pokemon and make them lose their memories. Scizzor's pincers have an eye pattern that tricks other Pokemon into believing it has 3 heads. Grumpig, literally named the Manipulate Pokemon, has the ability to control another's mind. Seviper hides in the tall grass and strikes its prey with venom. Gengar has been known for its trickery ever since Generation 1. Even her most innocent-looking Pokemon, Lumineon, uses its shining light to lure prey in close enough for the attack. Everything about Ryfort's Pokemon team screams deception. Even when Ryfort gives you a Pokemon in Blueberry Academy, she makes sure to give you a Pokemon that is weak to her team. In Blueberry Academy, after you finish the Indigo Disc story, you are able to invite teachers from Paldea to come visit. When you first invite Ryfort to Blueberry, she tells you that you've got some nerve inviting her to a modern structure, referring to the terrarium, before collecting herself and telling you to think of it as a favor. Then she tells you that she expects you to return the favor someday by doing exactly as she says. Talk to her again and she'll straight up refer to you as her puppet. If you invite Ryford and Jacques to Blueberry Academy at the same time, she will call Jacques a sacrifice and admit to being a crook. If you invite Ryford and Brassius together, Brassius will notice that she has an ancient relic of significant historical importance and say that it should not be in her possession. She tries to change the subject, but Brassius is unfazed and outright implies that she is a thief. Now, it's unknown what relic Brassius is referring to, but we do know that Ryford has 4 unique items on her person: a necklace depicting Articuno, a belt buckle shaped like Lunala, a hairpin with the face of Marshadow, and a bracelet that resembles Tapu Koko. If I had to guess, I would say that one of these items must be the relic Brassius is referring to, but there's no way of knowing which item is the relic. Perhaps all 4 of them were stolen. And we actually have proof that Ryford is in fact a thief. If you invite Ryford and Clavel to Blueberry at the same time, Ryford will outright ask if Director Clavel came to Blueberry to keep an eye on her. After Clavel denies the accusation, he asks if he is inconveniencing her in any way. She of course says no, not at all, which we all know is a lie because she contradicts that if you talk to her without Clavel around. After this, Clavel tells her that as long as he is breathing, he will ensure that she continues to fulfill her duties as a teacher, specifically pointing out that this is a good, honest occupation. So we now know that not only does Ryford want to take control of the 4 Pokemon that are capable of destroying Paldea, but also that she is a known thief that is only employed at the Academy so that Clavel can keep an eye on her. And need I remind you that earlier in the game, Ryford tells you that Clavel won't allow her to go looking for the treasures of Ruin. People like to give Clavel a lot of slack, but he may be the only person keeping the entirety of Paldea safe from Ryford's destruction. Is what I thought before I invited one more person to Blueberry Academy. You see, as a researcher for this video, I made sure to invite Ryford alongside every other training coach to make sure I had thoroughly scoured the Indigo Disc DLC for clues. While Ryford does have special dialogue with the teachers Sagaro and Time, it was when I invited Rhyme to meet up with Ryford that things got interesting. To refresh your memory, Rhyme is both Time's sister and the ghost gym leader in Paldea. Rhyme also has something of a special connection to ghost-type Pokemon. According to Bulbapedia, Rhyme was able to use her music to revive her deceased puppy Pokemon, turning it into what would eventually become Houndstone. So, why is Rhyme's connection to ghosts so important? Because when you invite her and Ryford to Blueberry Academy at the same time, she immediately points out that Ryford is being hexed by a spirit. When asked how she became hexed, Ryford states that her best guess is she was likely hexed when she snuck into an ancient tomb, stating that she tends to get hexed a lot. But what tombs would Ryford be raiding? Going back to Ryford's conversation with Brassius for a moment, we know that one of Ryford's 4 decorative pieces is stolen. Articuno and Lunala can both be ruled out as neither of them are deceased, and both can be caught alive and well in Paldea. Tapu Koko is a guardian deity who has never shown any ability to possess anyone. And then there's the Marshadow hairpin. Marshadow is a ghost fighting type Pokemon who we theorized last year may actually be the spirit of a dead Cubfu. Marshadow is based on the Night Marchers, the deadly ghosts of ancient tribal Hawaiian warriors. The Night Marchers are said to be the vanguard for a sacred king, chief, or chiefess, and Ryford clearly has some connection to the Alolan region. So here's what I think happened, friends. Ryford found herself some time ago in an ancient Alolan king's tomb looking for artifacts when she stumbled across the Marshadow hairpin. Deciding to grab the hairpin to study it, she gained the attention of a Marshadow who may have been there specifically to guard the king's tomb. Marshadow then followed Ryford back to her home region of Paldea and decided to exact its revenge there. Marshadow manipulated Ryford into trying to uncover dangerous artifacts around Paldea, which then gave her the thieving reputation she still carries today. Eventually, through Ryford's research into Paldea's history, Marshadow became aware of the treasures of Ruin and convinced Ryford to set them free, which she can't due to her reputation as a thief and Clavel watching her every move. So, Ryford, acting on Marshadow's behalf, does the next best thing. She summons one of her students to capture and bring the treasures of Ruin to her. Fortunately, Ryford is either unable or unwilling to outright take the treasures of Ruin from you by force. Perhaps that's why she gave you a Pokemon that is weak against her team. Either way, the treasures of Ruin being unleashed on Paldea would be an amazing plot for another DLC. So that's pretty much it. Let me know in the comment section if you think Rhyford is being controlled by Marshadow, or maybe her Gengar, or maybe the ghost of the fallen king of Paldea. Or maybe Rhyford isn't being controlled by anyone and simply wants to see the fall of Paldea for other reasons. If you know of any information of Rhyford I may have missed, I'd absolutely love to hear about it in the comment section. I think I've done pretty extensive research for this one and spread out the clues as best I could, but there's always a possibility that I may have missed something. Personally, I think Rhyford is the most fascinating character we've seen in Paldea so far, and I genuinely hope that they expand more on her lore in whatever installments Pokemon Day has in store for us next month. Fingers crossed for more DLC. If you are curious about that Marshadow is the dead Kubfu theory, you can check that out right here. And if you're interested in why I think Terapagos is more powerful than Arceus, check that one out right there. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, check us out on Twitter and Discord. And as always, I hope you guys have a fantastic week, and I can't wait to talk to you again soon. Peace.